I was hired to archive Beyoncé's old footage, and she looks exactly the same in every decade. At first, I thought it was some kind of digital trick, maybe just good lighting or makeup, but the more I watched, the more I realized something was off. She wasn't just aging well, she wasn't aging at all. What I found wasn't just a perfect star. I discovered something much darker, something I wasn't meant to know. Stay with me as I reveal the secret behind Beyoncé's eternal youth and why I wish I never uncovered it. I started with the oldest tape, thinking it would be a simple task, a live concert from the late 90s, nothing out of the ordinary. I wasn't prepared for what I saw. The footage opened with a young Beyoncé standing there on stage. But something wasn't right. She looked like she hadn't aged a day since the moment it was filmed. Her skin was flawless, her eyes sparkling with the same fire I'd seen in 2024 interviews. How could she look exactly the same after all those years? At first I thought it was just good lighting, maybe a trick of the camera. But as I watched, I became more uneasy. I rewound the footage, replayed the scenes, trying to find some imperfection, some sign of time. But nothing. She was exactly the same. No wrinkles, no signs of aging, no change whatsoever. I had to be missing something, right? Maybe it was the makeup, maybe a touch of Photoshop. But I'd worked with footage like this before. That wasn't it. The lighting wasn't special enough to explain her unchanging face. There had to be another explanation. So I dug deeper. I pulled out more tapes, desperate to find the answer. Another concert, another year. This one from 2003. As the footage rolled, I watched her on stage again, giving it her all. But there it was. The same face. Same expression, same flawless skin. Nothing had changed. I rewound the footage, checked the date, played it again. The same thing. It was like watching the same concert over and over with no difference in her appearance. I moved to the next tape thinking maybe I was just imagining things. But no matter how many performances I watched, it was always the same. And that's when it hit me. She wasn't aging. It wasn't just good lighting or makeup tricks. It was something far deeper than that. The panic started to set in. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck rise. It wasn't just a visual trick. It was like she was frozen in time. And what made it worse was that I couldn't stop watching. I couldn't stop looking for answers, even as I began to realize how dangerous it was. Maybe I was just seeing things, but as I sifted through more footage, the same pattern emerged over and over again. Concert after concert, interview after interview. Beyoncé, flawless, timeless, never aging. It didn't make sense. It couldn't be real. Then came the moment that sealed it for me. I pulled up a backstage interview from 2007. Her face was just as young, just as perfect as it was now. She looked exactly the same, like she had stepped out of a time machine and straight into the interview. It was impossible. It was like she was stuck in the same moment forever. But what if it wasn't just her? I looked at the background people, the crew, the other performers. They were different. They had aged, some more than others. But she was the constant, the anchor. Time itself had decided she would stay the same, while everyone else around her moved forward. But why? I started looking closer at the footage, really examining the details. Her energy, her movements, they were always the same. always perfect. It was like time itself refused to touch her. Why? What was keeping her from aging? I needed to know. I had to find the answer. But the deeper I dug, the more questions I had. And the more I realized, this wasn't just a mystery. This was something far darker. I thought I was imagining things. Maybe it was all just in my head. I couldn't let it go, though. I kept thinking about Beyoncé, how her face had never changed, how time seemed to bend around her. So I decided to dig deeper. I wasn't about to just let it slide. There had to be an explanation for what I was seeing, something I was missing. I pulled up more footage, all from different years. 2003, 2011, 2017, and more. Concerts, interviews, red carpets. The same Beyoncé, again and again. She looked exactly the same. Her smile, her eyes, her skin, unchanged, no matter how many years passed. But this time, something else caught my attention. It wasn't just Beyoncé who was unchanging. It was everything around her. The people in the crowd were the same. In one concert, I noticed a woman in the front row. Same face, same clothes, same posture. But that wasn't the crazy part. The same woman was in the crowd at another concert from 5 years later. Same position, same expression. I couldn't believe it. I had to rewind and rewatch, double checking to make sure I wasn't losing my mind. But sure enough, there she was, exactly the same. The crowd wasn't changing either. They all looked frozen in time, the same people in the same places. It was like someone had hit pause on reality itself. I was becoming obsessed with this idea. I needed to find out what was going on. Was this some strange coincidence? Or was it something more sinister? It wasn't just Beyoncé that was unaffected by time. It was everyone around her. The world seemed to be locked in place, as if time itself was waiting for something or someone. I watched the next set of tapes, desperate for an answer. A music video from 2010 came up. It was the same thing. Same flawless Beyoncé, standing in the spotlight, singing with that same unstoppable energy. But what was really bothering me was the crowd. Same people in the background, positioned in exactly the same spots, doing the same movements. I kept checking. I looked at the cameramen, the dancers, the crew. They all looked different. They had aged, their features subtly changing as the years passed. But not the audience, and definitely not Beyoncé. She was locked in time, a perfect mirror of herself over and over again. Then it started to sink in. It wasn't just a glitch in the footage. It wasn't some weird coincidence. The world itself, everything around her, was caught in this loop, frozen in place, and Beyoncé was the anchor. Time bent around her, refusing to let her change, refusing to let the world move on. The more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't a small issue. It was huge. Time itself had been warped, had been reordered around her. But what was keeping her in this loop? What kind of power did she have? Or was she even in control? I needed answers. I searched through more footage, watched every interview I could find. But then something even more unsettling happened. In a backstage interview from 2015, she said something that made my blood run cold. The interviewer asked her, "How do you manage to stay so young and energetic? What's your secret?" And Beyoncé answered, "Time is a gift. But gifts always come with a price." Her tone was calm, but the way she said it made my stomach drop. There was something off in her eyes. It was like she knew something I didn't. Like she was giving me a warning without saying it directly. I could feel the tension rising as I watched the clip again. What was she trying to tell us? Was this all just part of the act? Or was she, too, trapped in this loop, unable to escape? I couldn't shake it. There was a darkness behind her words, a hidden meaning. I played the tape over and over again, desperate to figure it out, to find the hidden message she was sending. But I couldn't. The more I looked, the more confused I became. Was she trying to warn us? Or had she already made a deal? One that kept her frozen in time? The fear set in deeper. I wasn't just looking at footage anymore. I was seeing something that went beyond the surface, something that I wasn't supposed to see. The world around Beyoncé was trapped in a loop, and she was at the center of it. But why? And what did it mean for me? For the rest of us? I kept thinking about her words, about how she said, time is a gift. What if it wasn't a blessing at all? What if this eternal youth wasn't a gift but a curse, a price she had to pay for something she didn't fully understand? And now, we were all paying that price too. It hit me like a punch to the gut. What if she hadn't chosen this life of perfection? What if she had been forced into it, trapped by some unseen force? What if she was the one who was stuck, and we were all just witnessing her slow descent into something darker? I couldn't stop. I couldn't just walk away from it anymore. I was too far in. I had seen too much. And there was no turning back. I kept rewatching the tapes, unable to stop. Every time I thought I'd uncovered something, I found even more questions. What was going on here? Why had I found this secret? Why was time bending around her? Then came the worst part. The realization that I wasn't just witnessing a mystery anymore. I was becoming part of it. I had started this journey trying to uncover the truth about Beyoncé's agelessness, but what I had found was so much darker than I could have imagined. This wasn't just about one woman. It was about something far bigger, something I didn't understand, and something that might be out of my control. And I couldn't shake the feeling that I was becoming trapped, too. The deeper I went, the more I realized something wasn't right. I couldn't stop thinking about the loop, the way time seemed to be frozen around Beyoncé. The more I watched, the more it became clear. This wasn't just about her unchanging face. It was everything around her. I kept digging, pulling up more footage, a music video from 2009, a red carpet event from 2014. I was desperate to find something, anything, that would explain this. But no matter what I watched, no matter what angle I tried, Beyoncé was the same. Exactly the same. It wasn't just her look that was frozen in time. It was the whole world around her. Everything. I started to pay closer attention to the people in the background, the dancers, the audience. They weren't the same. They were changing. Some had aged, others had different clothes. The world around Beyoncé was moving, but she wasn't. The same expressions, the same movements. It was like every time I watched the footage, I was seeing the same moment replayed. It felt like I was trapped in time with her, unable to escape. But what scared me even more was that no matter how many times I rewound it, there was no sign of aging. No natural progression, no change. It wasn't just that she wasn't aging. It was that the world itself seemed to be locked in place. Was this real? At first, I thought it was some kind of digital artifact, some editing trick, or a mistake in the footage. But the more I rewatched the tapes, the clearer it became. This wasn't a mistake. This was something deliberate. It was like someone had frozen time itself around her. And the longer I stared at her, the more I started to fear. I was looking at something I wasn't meant to see. Then came the backstage footage. This one was from a documentary in 2012, a behind-the-scenes look at one of her tours. As I watched her walk through the backstage area, I noticed something even more unsettling. Her bodyguards, the crew, the staff, everyone around her looked normal, like they were following time's course. They were aging, changing, showing the effects of years passing. But not Beyoncé. She was still perfect, still timeless, like she was above it all. And that's when the panic really set in. What if this wasn't just a quirk of the footage? What if she was trapped in this eternal loop? What if it wasn't just about her perfect image? It was about something much darker, something that had locked her in place for years. I couldn't stop thinking about that interview from 2015. Time is a gift, she'd said, but gifts always come with a price. Those words echoed in my mind as I watched her walk past the crew, a perfect vision in the middle of the chaos. What if she hadn't chosen this gift? What if she had been forced into it? What if this eternal youth wasn't a blessing at all, but a curse she couldn't escape? I tried to push it all out of my mind. I didn't want to think about it. But the more I rewatched the footage, the more it became clear. This wasn't just a strange occurrence. This was unnatural. I was witnessing something that shouldn't be possible. Something that shouldn't exist. The next video I pulled up was an old interview from 2010. It was in a small, intimate setting. Beyoncé was sitting in front of the camera talking about her life and career. I could feel the tension building in my chest as I watched her speak. And then, as she was talking about the pressure of fame, she looked straight into the camera and said, "There's a price to everything. You can't escape what comes with being this." For the first time, I saw something in her eyes. It was a flicker, a moment of uncertainty that broke through her usual composure. She wasn't just talking about the typical pressures of fame. She was talking about something else. I froze, unable to look away. There was something hidden beneath the surface of her words, something she wasn't telling the world. I couldn't get it out of my head. What was she hiding? And what did she mean when she said, "You can't escape"? Was she talking about the price of staying young forever? Was she trapped in this life, forced to stay the same while everyone else around her moved on? And then I found the next tape, a live performance from 2016. She was singing, just like always, with that same passion and energy. But this time, something felt different. I looked at the crowd. The same people, the same expressions, the same movements. They looked exactly the same as they had in previous concerts. Like they were stuck in the same moment, just like her. I began to wonder, what if it wasn't just Beyoncé who was stuck in time? What if we were all trapped? What if the world itself had been frozen around her, unable to move forward, every moment, every second repeating itself forever? I tried to shake the thought, but I couldn't. It was like the universe itself had been reordered around her. Time was no longer a constant. It was bending, looping, folding in on itself. And it was happening right before my eyes. I began to fear the worst. I wasn't just watching this happen. I was becoming part of it. The more I watched, the more I realized I wasn't an observer anymore. I was caught in this loop. I couldn't turn back. I couldn't stop it. And then, in a moment of horror, it hit me. I wasn't just witnessing the world freeze around Beyoncé. I was frozen in it too. I couldn't escape. No one could. The more I stared at her face, at the footage playing over and over, the more I felt time slipping away. It wasn't just a glitch. It wasn't just a trick of the camera. This was reality itself, bent, broken, and frozen in a way that I couldn't escape. But what I didn't realize yet was that I was only beginning to understand the true depth of what I had uncovered. I couldn't stop watching. Every tape I played only deepened my obsession. Each new discovery felt like a weight pressing down on me, a pressure that wouldn't release no matter how hard I tried to ignore it. The deeper I went into the archives, the more I realized I wasn't just uncovering Beyoncé's secret. I was discovering something much worse. Something that shouldn't exist. But I had to keep going. I was so far in at this point, there was no turning back. I had seen too much. I couldn't just walk away now. I needed answers. I needed to know what was going on, even if it meant unraveling everything I had ever believed. Then came the final tape, the one I thought would give me the answers I was desperately searching for. A live performance from 2024. It was the most recent footage, and I had to see it. Maybe, just maybe this time something would be different. I played the tape with bated breath, expecting to see something that could finally explain it all. But there she was, standing on stage just as I had seen her in every performance before. Exactly the same. No aging, no signs of time passing. She was timeless, unchanged, perfect and untouched by the years that had gone by. My heart pounded in my chest. I had to look closer. I focused on her movements, her expressions, her energy. Everything was the same. But this time, it was worse. This time, I wasn't just seeing Beyoncé. I was seeing everything around her. The crowd was there, clapping, cheering, shouting her name. But as I focused on them, something became terrifyingly clear. They weren't the same people as in previous concerts. They were different. But more unsettling than that, they were starting to age in real time. At first, I thought it was just my eyes playing tricks on me, but no, it was happening. Slowly, the crowd in the background, just like the crew, just like the dancers, began to change. Their faces, their bodies, their movements. They were aging before my eyes. It wasn't just a single person. It was everyone around her. Some of them had gray hair now. Others were starting to show wrinkles. The energy in the crowd was different. The smiles were slower and the cheers weaker. The world around Beyoncé was progressing, moving forward, but not her. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. This wasn't some weird optical illusion. This was real. I wasn't imagining things anymore. How was she doing this? As I watched the tape, it became even clearer that Beyoncé was the only constant in a world that seemed to be falling apart around her. Time wasn't just standing still for her, it was moving forward for everyone else but her. The crowd was aging. The crew was aging, but she wasn't. This wasn't just a trick of the camera or a result of good lighting. This was something otherworldly, something that defied logic, something that shouldn't have been possible. I turned the footage off for a moment, trying to regain my composure. My heart was racing. my head spinning. What had I just witnessed? The crowd wasn't the same. The world wasn't the same. But Beyoncé? She hadn't moved a second. She hadn't aged a day. I grabbed the next tape, desperate to find some kind of explanation. Something that could make sense of what I was seeing. Another performance, this one from 2019. I played it, and this time I could hardly breathe. The crowd had changed, just like before. But there was something else this time. Something I hadn't noticed before. There were tiny, subtle glitches in the footage, like the cameras were struggling to capture the true reality. There were moments when the screen would flicker, and the people in the crowd would appear in two places at once, like they were trapped in time themselves. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was all part of something much larger than I had ever imagined. Something I couldn't understand. Something I wasn't meant to see. I had seen the same faces in the crowd from one year to the next. The same people, the same expressions, the same movements. It was like the universe itself had been rewritten around her. Everything was repeating around Beyoncé, while time for her had become a distant concept. But that wasn't all. The more I watched, the more I realized there was a price to be paid for this. Time wasn't just frozen for Beyoncé. It was bending around her, forcing everything else to fall in line. And the more I watched, the more I felt like I was being pulled into this warped reality. Like I was becoming part of her world, part of the loop. I felt a chill run down my spine. What if this wasn't just happening on the tapes? What if this was happening in the real world? What if time wasn't just bending around her on screen? It was bending around her in real life too. I began to panic. I had seen it happen. The crowd aging in real time. The world moving forward while she stayed locked in place. The glitches in the footage, like the universe itself couldn't handle her immortality. And that's when the worst thought of all hit me. What if she wasn't in control of this? What if Beyoncé wasn't just living a life of luxury and fame? What if she was being trapped by something far darker? What if she was stuck in this eternal moment with no way out? What if time had claimed her? And now, it was claiming all of us. I couldn't stop thinking about what I had seen. The glitches. The crowd aging in real time, Beyoncé untouched by time, while everything around her moved forward. It was like I was staring at the edge of reality, and I was too afraid to look away. The more I tried to make sense of it, the more questions I had. I needed to understand what was happening. Why was she the only one who didn't age? Why was everything around her stuck, like the world had frozen, waiting for her to move? So I did what any person in my position would do. I started digging deeper. I went back into the archives, watching every interview, every moment I could find. I pulled up interviews from years ago, watching how Beyoncé spoke about her life, her career, her family. But it wasn't the words she said that haunted me. It was her eyes. Every time she spoke about her success, her fame, she always sounded calm, collected, confident. But I started noticing something I had missed before. There was a quiet desperation in her tone, like she was speaking not just to the interviewer, but to herself, as if she was repeating a script, something she had said 1,000 times, trying to convince herself she believed it. There was one interview in particular, from 2012, that caught my attention. She was asked how she managed to stay so focused, how she maintained her energy after years of intense work. She smiled and said, "You can't stop. You just keep moving, keep pushing. But sometimes I wonder, what's the price of it all?" She paused. It was brief, just a second, but it felt like an eternity. It was like she had just opened a door, and for a split second, I saw what was really behind it. I saw the fear, the uncertainty, the realization that maybe she wasn't in control of her own fate. I rewound the interview, watched that moment again, over and over. And then, in a sudden flash, it hit me. I wasn't just witnessing a strange anomaly in time. This wasn't just about Beyoncé's agelessness. It was about the price she had paid for it. What if this wasn't some gift? What if she had made a deal? What if she had traded something essential, something human, for the power to remain untouched by time? And what if that deal wasn't just affecting her, but the entire world around her? The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. She wasn't just a star who had defied aging. She had become the anchor of time itself. She was trapped in a cycle, stuck in an endless loop, unable to break free. The rest of us were caught in it too, forced to relive the same moments over and over while she remained the same, frozen in time. I dug through more footage, desperate to find any clue that could explain how this had happened. I found an old interview from 2009 where she was asked about her legacy. Her answer was chilling. "I don't think about legacy," she said. "I think about what's next. What's the next move? What's the next chapter?" But there was something in her voice, a sadness that no one else had noticed. It wasn't just about her career. It wasn't about her music. It was about what she had given up to stay on top, to stay perfect, to never age. I started piecing it together, and with each new discovery, the fear started to grow. This wasn't just a celebrity who had figured out how to stay young. This was someone who had made a deal with something ancient, something powerful. And now, she was paying the price. The next thing I found shook me to my core. An interview from 2018, where Beyoncé was speaking with a producer about the pressures of fame. She said something that made my blood run cold. People think it's all about the music, about the performance, but it's more than that. It's about staying relevant. It's about being something that no one else can touch. There it was. The price. Staying relevant. Staying perfect. What if she wasn't just keeping herself young for the world to see? What if it was something more? What if, in order to stay relevant, to stay at the top, she had to make herself immortal? What if she had made a pact, a trade with the very fabric of time itself, to ensure she would always be on top, no matter what? The deeper I dug, the more I began to realize she wasn't just ageless. She was trapped in a cycle, unable to escape. And the worst part was, so was I. I started noticing that the more I watched the footage, the more I became a part of the loop. It wasn't just the tapes. It was like I was inside the loop, living the same moments over and over, unable to escape. The world around me seemed to be folding in on itself, repeating the same patterns, the same faces. I couldn't understand why I felt like I was stuck. Was it because of her? Had her deal with time somehow pulled me into this twisted reality too? It became clear to me now. She wasn't the only one paying the price. The world had become a prison, a place where time no longer moved forward. It was all centered around her, and I was trapped in it, The fear was overwhelming. I wasn't just uncovering a celebrity's secret. I was uncovering a reality-altering truth. And what terrified me the most was that I had no idea how to escape it. But I couldn't stop now. I had to keep going. I had to understand the full extent of what I had uncovered, even if it meant sacrificing everything. Because once you know the truth, you can't go back. The loops were getting tighter. And I was starting to realize I was no longer just watching. I was trapped in it too. The more I watched, the deeper I fell into it. The tapes, the footage, the interviews, they were all starting to feel like a part of me. I couldn't escape it. The more I saw, the more I realized that I wasn't just a passive observer anymore. I was becoming part of the loop, caught in something much darker than I could ever have imagined. Every time I played a new tape, it felt like I was sinking deeper into the same endless cycle. The same faces, the same people, the same performances. Always perfect, always unchanging. But it wasn't just the footage that was looping. It was the world around me. I began to notice the strange occurrences in my own life. Conversations would repeat themselves. The same people I saw every day would say the same things in the same order, as if we were all stuck in some kind of twisted déjà vu. The world felt off kilter, like I was living in a reality where time was no longer moving the way it was supposed to. It wasn't just that I was reliving the same moments over and over. It was like the entire world was caught in a loop, bending and twisting around Beyoncé. The universe itself had frozen, unable to move forward, unable to break free from the cycle that had been created. I started to feel trapped. I could see it happening, but I couldn't escape it. Every conversation I had, every new interaction, it all felt stale, like I had already lived it. And the more I realized this, the more I understood the terrifying truth. Beyoncé wasn't the only one caught in this loop. We all were. I began to question everything I had seen. Was it possible that this had been happening all along? That time had somehow warped around her, bending everything in its path? Or had something happened? A deal, a choice that had caused this? The deeper I dug, the more I saw the signs. In the footage, in the background, in the subtle glitches in the reality around her. I had seen it before. The way the crowd would freeze, the way people would repeat their actions, the way time itself felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. But it never did. It wasn't just a few moments of déjà vu. It wasn't just a trick of the camera. It was real. Time itself had been bent, twisted into a shape it was never meant to take. And Beyoncé was at the center of it all. I started looking at the interviews again, the ones I had watched 100 times over, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. There was one interview from 2016 where Beyoncé spoke about the pressure of maintaining her image. The interviewer asked her, "How do you handle the constant pressure to be perfect, to stay relevant?" She smiled, but her eyes were cold. It's not about staying relevant. It's about staying timeless. No one can touch you if you stay timeless. I froze. I had heard her say this before, but now it hit me like a ton of bricks. Timeless. She wasn't just trying to remain relevant, to stay popular. She had become untouchable. She had become a force of nature, a constant in a world that couldn't move forward without her. And then it all clicked. The loops, the glitches, the repetition. It wasn't just happening because of some mistake. This was her price. She had made herself immortal, frozen in time. But in doing so, She had frozen the world around her. She was the anchor. She was the one holding everything in place. But the more I thought about it, the more terrifying it became. If Beyoncé had become the anchor, the center of time itself, what did that mean for the rest of us? What if we were all trapped in the same cycle? What if time was stuck, unable to move forward, unable to escape the grip of her agelessness? I felt like I was suffocating. The world felt smaller every day. The people around me weren't real anymore. They were part of the loop. They were stuck, just like me. And as I watched Beyoncé on the screen, so perfect, so unchanged, I realized I was no different. I couldn't escape. There was no way out. I had become part of the loop. I had been pulled into her world, into this endless cycle where time refused to move forward. The worst part? I couldn't even remember when it had started. Was it a week ago? A month? Or had it always been like this and I had just never noticed? I tried to break free, to turn off the tapes, to stop watching. But the more I tried, the more the loop tightened around me. Every time I looked away, I found myself right back in front of the screen, watching the same footage, hearing the same words. What had I done? The deeper I went, the more I realized I wasn't just observing history. I was living it, and I was trapped in it. There was no way out. I had been pulled into her world, and now I was a part of it. Beyoncé wasn't the only one paying the price. We all were. The world was frozen in time, held hostage by the curse she had made for herself, and there was no escape for anyone. The more I watched, the more I saw the true horror of what I had uncovered. Time itself had stopped moving for Beyoncé, but for the rest of us, we were caught in the web, trapped in a moment that would never end. The fear washed over me, and I realized I wasn't just a victim. I was complicit. I had become part of the loop, and there was no way to stop it. The fear had reached a breaking point. I thought about stopping, about walking away from it all, but I couldn't. I was already too deep, tangled in a web I couldn't escape. The loop was getting tighter, suffocating everything around me. I couldn't look away from Beyoncé. I couldn't stop staring at her, perfect and timeless, as the world around her moved, aged and decayed. Every time I thought I could walk away to forget what I had uncovered, the images came flooding back. The crowds aging in real time. The way the footage repeated itself. How I was trapped inside the loop, just like everyone else. What had started as curiosity had turned into an obsession. And now, it was something much darker. I needed answers. I needed to know why this was happening. Why Beyoncé was at the center of it all. Why time was bending and breaking around her. But the more I searched, the more I realized there was no clear answer. There was no escape from this madness. The only thing I knew for sure was that she wasn't in control. She was trapped just like the rest of us. I had seen the tapes. I had watched the interviews. I had witnessed the way time itself had folded in on her. And now, I knew the truth. This wasn't just about Beyoncé's beauty, or her fame, or her talent. This was something far more dangerous. She had made a deal with forces beyond comprehension. Forces that had locked her in a cycle, a prison of her own making. And now, the world itself was trapped in it. The truth was too much to bear. She wasn't the one in control. She was the victim, just like the rest of us. She had made a a choice to stay perfect, to stay timeless. But in doing so, she had bound herself to a cycle of endless repetition, a cycle that had trapped the world around her too. The longer I stared at her face, the more I saw the truth in her eyes. There was no escape. Time wasn't just standing still for her, it was repeating itself. The universe had become a broken record, unable to move forward, and I had become part of it. I tried to look away, to disconnect from everything I had uncovered, but it was impossible. The loop had already pulled me in, and now I was part of it. Time had become a prison, and we were all caught in it. We were all stuck in the same moment, unable to move forward. But the worst part, I couldn't even remember when it all started. How long had I been trapped in this cycle? Was I living the same day over and over? Was I reliving my own life just like the world around Beyoncé was reliving the same performances, the same moments? There was no way to tell anymore. Every day felt the same. Every hour, every second was repeating itself like a never-ending loop that couldn't be broken. It was as if I had become a part of the footage, a part of the trap that had been set for all of us. Beyoncé wasn't just stuck in time, we all were, and there was no way out. I could feel the walls closing in. The more I tried to escape, the more I realized I was already gone. I wasn't just watching her life, I was living it. I was a part of the loop, and I could never break free. And now, I understood the true price of perfection, the price of eternal youth, the price of being trapped in time. It wasn't just a matter of staying young, it was about losing yourself, losing your humanity, becoming a prisoner in a world that refused to move. The tapes never stopped. They kept playing over and over again. The world kept turning, but nothing changed. The same faces, the same performances, the same expressions. Everything was frozen, caught in the same moment. And Beyoncé, she would remain perfect, trapped in that moment forever. Just like the rest of us. Final payoff. I tried to walk away. I thought if I closed my eyes, if I ignored it, maybe it would all disappear. But it didn't. The tapes never stopped. The world kept moving around me, but I couldn't escape. The loop was real. Beyoncé was stuck in it. I was stuck in it, and so was everyone else. The more I watched, the more I realized time wasn't just broken for her, it was broken for all of us. We were all caught in her world, trapped in a cycle that refused to end. She wasn't some immortal star. She was a prisoner. And so was I. So were we all. Time refused to move forward. The universe had been rewritten around her and no one could escape. I had seen the truth. Now there was no going back. Time was trapped, and so was I.